Hello, I want to welcome you back to Bible Studies with Russ. We're going to pick up where we left off several weeks ago. We've had a lot going on, and so gotten a little bit behind on keeping up with our try to be weekly Bible studies, sometimes live, sometimes I just have to record them and upload them when I can. And that's what we're doing today. We're picking up today in Joshua chapter 20 in verse 10. We're actually going to back up a little bit to verse 8 here. And as you can see there on the screen, Judges chapter 20, verses 8. And what I have here, one heading that's provided here is Judges 28 through 17. Israel and Benjamin prepare to do battle. Israel and Benjamin prepare to do battle in Judges chapter 28 through 17. And we're going to look first at verses 8 through 11. Verses 8 through 11. And we have here, the Bible says, so all the people arose as one man, saying, none of us will go to his tent, nor will any turn back to his house. But now this is a thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. And we will take 10 men out of every 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, 100 out of every 1,000, and 1,000 of every 10,000, to make provisions for the people, that when they come to Gibeah and Benjamin, that they may repay all the vileness they have done in Israel. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, united together as one man. And so to their credit, we can say that the men of Israel decided to take a united action, if you will, against this guilty city. They decided not to return home until they had settled this issue properly. The law prescribed capital punishment for this capital offense. If you look at Deuteronomy chapter 22, let's go and pull that up. Deuteronomy chapter 22, and looking, I believe there at verse 22, says, if a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die, the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so you shall put away the evil from Israel. And so there you go. That is the capital punishment that's found there, Deuteronomy 22 and verse 22. To go up by lot against Gibeah was to deal with it as with the towns of the Canaanites, conquer it, lay it in ashes, as one commentator says. Perhaps the lot was used to select the 10% of the forces to provide the supplies for the fighting men. The first wave of attackers was also decided by lots in verse 18. The words "we will go up," will go up. The words "we will go up" are not in the Hebrew, but are supplied by the Septuagint, says one commentator, who were says here who were very likely found in their Hebrew copy the word "nela," we will go up, which has since fallen out of the Hebrew text from its resemblance to the following word "elah" against it. None of us will shrink from the dangers of war, but we will cast lots. The sense here is that none of them will shrink from the dangers of war, but will cast lots to see who will go up against Gibeah and who will be employed in collecting victuals for the army, the 40,000 having to be told off for the latter service. The assembly was knit together as one man. Their strength of unity and weakness in division. Their strength of unity and weakness and division. You can compare that to Acts 4 and verse 32, where it tells us the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and of one soul. Neither said any of them that aught of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had all things in common. Okay, let's look there now at verses 12 through 14. Verses 12 through 14. Then the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what is this wickedness that has occurred among you? Now therefore deliver up the men, the perverted men who are in Gibeah, that we may put to death and remove the evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel. Instead, the children of Benjamin gathered together from their cities to Gibeah to go to battle against the children of Israel. So that's 12 through 14. So the Benjamites were not present in these deliberations. After the commitment was reached to go to war, a group of representatives was sent to Benjamin asking about the wickedness that had been done in their midst and demanding that the leaders hand over the children of Beel at Gibeah for execution. The guilt of the crime was demonstrated by the dismembered body of the concubine, says one commentator. If the people of Benjamin were interested in truth and justice, they would have handed over the culprits gladly, but they rejected instead the demand. A tragic civil war could have been avoided if they had done what was right. The Benjamites showed the unchangeable nature of their decision by summoning their fighting men for battle. In Proverbs 29 and verse 1, the Bible says, "He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy." Things to remember, right? The Benjamites took the side of the offenders, which led to civil war. Those who died in consequence of the ensuing battles and the near destruction of the tribe of Benjamin are an outgrowth of the decisions made here. Let's look now at verses 15 through 17. Verses 15 through 17. And from their cities at that time, the children of Benjamin numbered 26,000 men who drew the sword, besides the inhabitants at Gibeah, who numbered 700 select men. Among all this people were 700 select men who were left-handed. Everyone could sling a stone at a hair's breadth and not miss. Now, besides Benjamin, the men of Israel numbered 400,000 men who drew the sword. All these were men of war. So that's verses 15 through 17. So the forces of Benjamin numbered 26,000 soldiers plus 7 chosen fighters from Gibeah. Their army included 700 men who were left-handed slingers who could sling a stone at any tiny target and not miss. The sling was a deadly weapon in the hands of a skillful man. With a single throw using a sling, David was able to slay the mighty Goliath. We know, of course, God was with him, but he did nonetheless have nothing but a sling and a stone there in 1 Samuel 17. The sling was a dangerous weapon up to about 200 yards away. It was still a very dangerous weapon. That's a long way. Israel had an army of 400,000 men of war. Seemingly, their superior forces were so tremendous that the little army of Benjamin had no chance. A wise general has ways of turning the overwhelming strength of an enemy against itself. In Numbers 26, 38 through 41, the tribe of Benjamin had 45,600 fighting men. The whole nation had a combined force of 601,730 soldiers. In the present case, both of these numbers have been reduced by about 1/3, which indicates the attrition of the wars that they had fought in the meantime. It is possible, of course, that not all the Israelite men of war was present, but that is unlikely, says one commentator. And so, again, perhaps their numbers have dwindled because of the battles they have been involved in. Now, in Judges 20, 18 through 25, you have Benjamin wins 2 victories. Judges 20, 18 through 25, Benjamin wins 2 victories. We're going to look next at verses 18 and 19 together there. Verses 18 and 19. Then the children of Israel arose and went up to the house of God to inquire of God. They said, "Which of us shall go up first to battle against the children of Benjamin?" The Lord said, "Judah first." So the children of Israel rose in the morning and camped against Gibeah. So the Israelites decided at this point, after having committed themselves to go to war, to approach God to request his counsel. This, of course, is a good decision and always is, but should have been done prior to committing themselves to do battle. Since house of God is the meaning of Bethel, it is maintained by some that references to the city of Bethel, but it was Bethel that Israel went to consult God rather than to the tabernacle. And verse 27 says the Ark of the Covenant was located there in those days. Does this mean that the tabernacle was at Shiloh and the Ark of the Covenant was at Bethel? He says, this commentary says, or does the verse simply say that the Ark of the Covenant along with the tabernacle was at the place meant? Bethel was only a short distance from Mizpah, but Shiloh was only a few miles further. The point is of some small relative significance, which is highly meaningful. What is highly meaningful is their desire to obtain God's guidance and blessing. The Ark of the Covenant had been brought from Shiloh temporarily to serve the present war, says one commentator. The Israelites were clearly in disobedience to God. The Benjamites were also in rebellion against him. Both segments of the nation needed divine correction, which occurred in the following experiences. Israel asked God which of the tribes should first do battle with Benjamin. He indicated Judah. Feeling confident of success, Israel went forth. Next, we have verses 20 and 21. Verses 20 and 21. Here the Bible says, And the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel put themselves in battle array to fight against them at Gibeah. Then the children of Benjamin came out of Gibeah, and on that day cut down to the ground 22,000 men of the Israelites. So the fighting men of Judah engaged the men of Benjamin and were soundly defeated. 22,000 of Judah's army was slain. The outcome of the battle should have reminded Israel of the disastrous first battle their predecessors had at Ai back in Joshua chapter 7. The earlier defeat at the hands of the ungodly men of Ai happened because Israel had sin in their own camp. It did not matter whether the people of Ai were far more ungodly than Israel. Israel had the information to do right. Benjamin was guilty of gross sins against God, yet Israel was not unspotted. In his providence, some say God was about to punish both parties. Gibeah, sometimes called Geba, spelled Geba, literally the hill, was doubtless very difficult to assault, and this steep approach greatly favored the defenders. The men of Judah probably came up carelessly and with an overweening confidence, and so met with a terrible disaster. The word destroyed here is used the same as is applied to destroying angel in Exodus 12:23, 2 Samuel 24:16, and a few others as well. Let's see here. Next, let's look at verses 22 and 23. Verses 22 and 23. And the people, that is, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves and again formed the battle line at the place where they had put themselves in array on the first day. Then the children of Israel went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and asked counsel of the Lord, saying, Shall I again draw near for battle against the children of my brother Benjamin? And the Lord said, Go up against him. So as we look at verse 22 and 23, we find that failing to recognize the cause of their defeat, the men of Israel consoled themselves with the belief that since God had directed that Judah should first enter the fray, that God implied that he would be with them. They wept before the Lord the rest of the day until evening and asked his counsel again. This time they were more specific in their requests. Shall I go up again to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? God's plain reply was, Go up against him. His response, however, did not mean that his approval of their plan promised success in the battle. It only meant that it was God's will that they attack Benjamin. They didn't ask if they would be victorious, did they? Verses 24 and 25. 24 and 25. So the children of Israel approached the children of Benjamin on the second day, and Benjamin went out against them from Gibeah on the second day, and cut down to the ground 18,000 more of the children of Israel. All these drew the sword. So you see there verses 24 and 25. So there is the result, right? The Israelites launched another attack the next day, and 18,000 men of the Israelites fell in the fighting. This defeat, you could say, was a crushing blow to Israel. It was beyond their comprehension. How could it be that God directed them to prosecute the war, but permit them to suffer such a humiliating defeat? 40,000 Israelites have been killed in the two battles. The enemy started out with only 26,000 men. We are not told the number of dead from the Benjamin camp, but evidently their losses were not great. The success of Benjamin undoubtedly gave them a high degree of confidence, possibly even to cause them to believe they were invincible. Israel had decided at the first that 10% of their forces would be assigned to the task of providing food for the whole army. It is more than passing interest that in the two battles they lost 10% of their men, 40,000 men. So equal to the same percent who are sitting back and doing nothing, or not fighting anyway. In Judges chapter 20, in verses 26 through 35, you have the heading Benjamin is defeated, verses 26 through 35. We're going to look first at verses 26 through 28. Then all the children of Israel, that is, all the people, went up and came to the house of God and wept. They sat there before the Lord and fasted that day until evening, and they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. So the children of Israel inquired of the Lord. The ark of the covenant, of God was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, "Shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of my brother Benjamin, or shall I cease?" And the Lord said, "Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand." So that's verses 26 through 28. Perhaps if Israel had fasted and prayed at the first before deciding on their course of action, perhaps it would have met with immediate success. But they decided on their plan, and they asked God to give his blessing on it. You might say they left God out of the plan. I said before that any plan that leaves God out deserves to fail. It seems like they did that, and they did fail. Led to one commentator here, says here, he says, this led to reflection. They became sensible of their guilt and in not repressing their national idolatries, as well as into proudly relying on their superior numbers and the precipitate rashness of their expedition, having humbled themselves by prayer and fasting, as well as observed the appointed method of making atonement for their sins. They were assured of acceptance as well as of victory. The presence and services of Phinehas on this occasion help us to ascertain the chronology thus far. The date of this occurrence must be fixed shortly after the death of Joshua. Again, those are words from another commentator. Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, served the tabernacle in those days. Israel approached God through Phinehas, asking whether they should continue the war against Benjamin. And God plainly told them to fight again on the morrow, and he would deliver Benjamin into their hands. Let's see here. Okay, let's look now at verses 29 through 32. Then Israel set men in ambush all around Gibeah, and the children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day and put themselves in battle array against Gibeah as at the other times. So the children of Benjamin went out against the people and were drawn away from the city. And lost my place. And they began to strike down and kill some of the people, as at other times, in the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, and in the field about 30 men of Israel. And the children of Benjamin said, "They are defeated before us as at first." But the children of Israel said, "Let us flee and draw them away from the city to the highways." Okay, so that's 29 through 32. So Israel had a better plan in mind, we might say, when they entered the third battle. They set men in ambush around Gibeah before setting their men against the city. From Gibeah's viewpoint, the fighting was to follow the same pattern as before. Seeing the Israelites approaching Gibeah in force, the Benjamites came forward to engage them. As Benjamin pressed their counterattack, Israel began to fall back, just as they had done before. So basically, they believe that something's going to happen. They're falling back. They're going to defeat them for the third time. But really, they're pulling them in to this trap. Without realizing their error, Benjamin thought Israel was being routed as on the other two battles. The strategy was to draw the Benjamites away from the city and have the ambushers to take Gibeah. The battle plan was the same as that employed by Joshua in defeating Ai, drawing them into an ambush. Verses 33 through 35 is what we're going to read next. So all the men of Israel rose from their place and put themselves in battle array at Baal Tamar. Then Israel's men in ambush burst forth from their position in the plain of Gibeah. And 10,000 select men from all Israel came against Gibeah, and the battle was fierce. But the Benjamites did not know that disaster was upon them. The Lord defeated Benjamin. Notice there, the Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel. And the children of Israel destroyed that day 25,100 Benjamites. All these drew the sword. 33 through 35 there. So the Israelites had initiated the attack against Gibeah, rose from their place, and retreated to Baal Tamar, where they quickly set themselves in array against the pursuing Benjamites. But notice here, as we look there in verses, 30 3 through 35. Who was it that smote them? The Lord smote. Who was it that got the victory? The Lord did. He used Israel, but it was the Lord who got the victory. Now, we're going to stop there. When we come back next time, we'll pick up in Judges chapter 20 and verse 36. And Judges 20 and 36 through 48, you have the losses that Benjamin suffered. That's 36 through 48. So we'll go and stop there, and we'll come back next time and pick that up. I do thank you for your time and for your attention. Hope you have found this study encouraging and beneficial. And Lord willing, we'll be back here again next week for another study on the book of Judges.